It's essentially, how do we ensure that the company is healthy, and how do we ensure that it continues to scale so that their margins go up and not, either stay, static or decline. So the Hoffman or I like to refer to it as a Hoff scale method.
Welcome, everyone, to the 1% Edge podcast. Here we have the privilege of meeting with amazing guests and having conversations about their journey to getting 1% better every day. And for today's topic, we're going to be discussing why so many B2B software companies simply do not make enough money. And to help us out with that topic, I have the pleasure of having Jeff Hoffman, CRO at multiple software companies along the way, who can share his own methods of making sure organizations can scale and sustain that growth. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Nice to be here.
Excellent. All right, we'll jump into the topic first that everybody wants to hear about, and then we'll hear more about Jeff towards the end as well. But first of all, define the problem to me. I mean, I think every company out there would say, I don't make enough money. What specifically with a B2B, especially technology companies, why are they not making enough money? Let's define the problem first.
Yeah, I think the problem innately stems from the fact that you've got, 98, 97, 98% of B2B software companies are privately held. They're young, they're trying to get going, they get money from venture capital, and then eventually, if they're along the way doing pretty well, they get PE money, private equity money. But I think the fundamental problem in general stems from the fact that the industry at large is primarily a lot of companies that are selling nice to have products instead of gotta have products in the market. And part of it is inherent in the fact that a lot of software is not something that you have to be, to make money. For if you're a buyer, you don't necessarily have to have that software. It's a nice to have. A lot of times it's going to do cost takeout as opposed to make you money. So the reciprocity is not always there, but you can get closer to the gotta have than the nice to have. And it starts, in my opinion, with doing a proper product scope to the marketplace. So, investors place their bets. They put these companies in their portfolios hoping that they're going to hit exits at some point. But for whatever reason, and I've seen this a lot through my management consulting firm that I formed 10 years ago in helping a lot of companies, is that they don't seem to have a correlation that's properly set up between the amount of money that they know they need to make every year, in comparison to the actual addressable market that they can go after to make the money. So the first step is make sure you look at your total addressable market, define that quantifiably, and then define your serviceable addressable market, and then from there define your serviceable obtainable market, because all three of those attributes will help you to quantify how much money you really believe you can make with the the products that you're bringing into the market. And a lot of times that's not scoped effectively, and so then the go to market doesn't work, and then they hire these companies hire salespeople who have quotas, and the quotas don't align to what they can really go out and achieve. And so that's where the problem lies.
So, Jeff, along those lines, here's one of my. I'm going to back up, I think, what you just said. I see a lot of tech companies that create the bright, shiny object, right? The new whiz-bang thingamajig. And they, of course, want to get to market. So this thing can do anything for anyone, anywhere. And they get some of those early adopters. And sales start coming in. They think, this is easy. We got it. We just got to show them the product. But then as you start growing the business and scaling the business, those number of early adopters are only so many of them. And you get more, maybe call them latent buyers, the people that are going to be, well, no, I really need to prove this is going to have an impact before I jump into this. I'm not buying it because it's cool and shiny. I'm buying it because it's going to have a measurable impact for my business. And it's enough to justify it. So the sales cycle changes, and it can't be anymore about just show it to them and they'll buy it, which is a lot of founders believe. Now it's more about, no, we really need to have a conversation and really have a business case behind this. And I agree with you. It starts back at product. Like, don't tell me what we created. Tell me who in the world would buy it and what problems does it solve for them and what kind of impact might it have for them. What do you think? Am I off base?
No, you're right. I mean, let's assume that you do have a product for the market, and you have those early adopters, and it looks like you're going to be off to the races. You then have to kind of go through what I refer to in my Hoffman method, my Hoff scale method. I refer to it as a bit of a conveyor belt where you have to start thinking about who are the people, in terms of your audience that really are going to spend the money. Who's the person that really owns that decision? Who are the influencers? And who are the additional ancillary impact players that you need to talk to? And you need to specifically, define the questions that you want to ask all of the different titled individuals that can have that can help you further your opportunity to getting a deal done where you're selling to a buyer or buyers within an organization. You need to make sure you're asking the right questions to all these different types of people, and that you're making the right statements to each of those people so that they can be reflective and say, yes, this is the impact I need to hear and to internalize so that I feel confident I'm making a decision that is going to help our business either grow in ways that'll save us a lot of money over the next number of years, make us more efficient. And maybe if you're really fortunate, they can say, you know what, we're going to make money by using this software. And that's a rarity. But whether it's cost takeout or earned income from using products and services that a vendor's providing you, once you define that that messaging, it'll enable you to build the go-to-market much more effectively to resonate against what your early adopters did. You need to build out the territory alignment of additional companies and those titles I'm talking about that you can sell to. And you might even need partnerships to add an indirect revenue stream to be able to get your total market that you want to obtain. So that's what you need to be able to do going forward on the conveyor belt. And then the last piece is, how do you execute? Well, you better make sure you have a program in place that will enable you to stay sustainable and scalable. And the most important bit on the execution side, which is where a lot of companies fail, is make sure your salespeople and any ancillary resource supporting sales to bring in money is capable of finding, cultivating, and winning deals in forecasted timelines. Because the last thing you want is a CRM system full of fake deals.
Oh, these days, and I say it's these days. Somebody says, "Well, Carl says it every day." I always feel like the hot topic, as soon as a company feels pressure, it's we need more pipeline. And sadly, a lot of times, what people hear is, "Oh, I just need to put more junk in my pipeline and not get my manager off my back." But the worst thing to have is a pipeline full of unqualified deals. I mean, we're just kidding ourselves. Right. And we're wasting time, energy, cycles on deals that we know are not a good fit. We know are not going to work for us. And, so any advice on, because let's talk about that topic, advice on organizations that obviously want to grow their pipeline, right? Want to show their investors look at what we got in the pipe for the next few quarters to come. But need to do it in a way that those deals are truly qualified opportunities.
Yeah, so you touched on two critical points. At the end of the day, the most important thing for companies is what they all need to have. They need to have a pipeline that grows, that is growing all the time to accommodate for deal certainty. And in order to get to deal certainty, you have to have a few things in place that you need to stay focused on. You've got to have a forecasting model that makes sense. So, in other words, what does that mean? It means that you're organized. All these opportunities that you have salespeople trying to go out and find. Are they committed deals? Are they upside opportunities? Are they long shots? And how do you define whether your CRM is going to reflect the opportunity as committed within a certain time frame, or upside in the time frame, or it's a long shot? Because this is your livelihood. If you get that wrong, then the bets that the investors are placing go out the window, and as you've alluded to, no one's happy. So you've got to, what I've learned over all my years from when I was a salesperson at Oracle and IBM and selling for innocuous companies after those two organizations where we had no resources, I've learned over the years that what I incorporated was, look, to get to a commit that you can guarantee or know with certainty that the deal is an upside or a long shot, I get there I use these staged events, and they go 1 to 6. And each stage has specific line items that have to take place. And I also, in addition to the staged events, I like to use a working close plan. So if I'm coaching or mentoring, or when I managed sales teams, I like to use a working close plan that what it does is it says, okay, it's like an Excel spreadsheet that you create where you say, what are the meetings that we've had to determine that this is a qualified opportunity? Let's put them on the form. Who are they with? When did they take place? And let's forward think all of the meetings that have to happen from where we're at in the beginning to the end to get a deal done. What are those meetings going to be? Who are they going to be with? What resources are we going to need on our side internally to help support winning the business? So now, when you write down, let's just say 24 upcoming forward-thinking meetings, and you put the dates that you expect them to happen, you might push out 6 to 9 months, or even a year of coveted, curated meetings. And then when you do that with the working close plan, you take your 6 staged events and you correlate, you toggle against the meetings that need to happen, where you're at in the stages to determine where you forecast. It sounds a little convoluted, maybe discussing it, but it's actually pretty easy to explain it and coach to it. And that's what I've done over the years. And that's how I've helped sales organizations reach deal certainty, because at the end of the day, the more certain you are about your opportunities closing in those CRM forecasted timelines, then you mitigate the risk and you get to your exits and everyone's happy.
All right, Jeff, I'm with you on everything. And I'm a big believer in having a plan with the customer. The only thing, and I know at Oracle they used to call them closed plans, I like to call them, and again, this is my pet peeve, I like to call them mutual success plans. The reason being is, let's face it, closing the deal is not success for our buyers, right? You still got to implement it and get it up and running, and then fulfill the promises of them getting that value, that cost savings or revenue drive or productivity, right? So I'm with you 1,000%. My only advice is, and maybe it's already in yours, because I get it. I know Oracle used to call them closed plans. I like to call them mutual success plans. And I like to lay it out like, when does the customer need to have this up and running? When does the customer need to have these outcomes achieved? And if we work backwards through those steps, another thing it does for our timeline, it makes it multifaceted. It's not just we want to get it closed this quarter, is no, the customer needs to get it closed this quarter.
Right.
And one of the things I used to tell teams, I go, I got great news for you. Leadership does not mind if deals get closed in the first month of a new quarter. They don't mind it at all. What really kind of bothers is when you forecasted it for the prior quarter.
Right.
So by having these mutual success plans kind of work that way, it still gives you the predictability like you talked about, but it's really based on the customer needing it to have these time frames versus not just us. What do you think?
No, you're spot on. And I'll tell you, Carlos, I'm going to change it to the phrase you're using, mutual success plans, because the working close document or plan, it does include exactly what you're talking about. It's what are the resources you need on the sales side, but what do you need on the buy side? And then it is intended to certainly make the buyer happy, the buyers, the organization you're selling to. They have to feel that they're getting an impact, whatever that impact is, whether it's, like I said, either cost takeout or cost earning or money earned to their organization over a period of time. You need to develop that going forward. So not only is the plan really designed to get the deal, but it's designed to show the value for the period of hopefully forever. And, whatever you're selling might have upgrades to it, but, you want that to be a forever customer satisfaction. So when you talk about things like customer success, post the deal, it's all about how do we keep, from a maintenance perspective, how do we keep our customers happy? So there's got to be that component that says we're going to keep coming back and working with you to ensure that you achieve the success that we initially sold you on.
Agree 1,000%. I call it, we're in the raving fans business, right? we want people to not just be happy for it and renew. We want them to buy more and tell 10 of their friends. And if you make that outcome, the outcome of this relationship, you're going to have a thriving business that can grow and scale. Without Absolutely. It, you're going to run out of juice. So let me take a step back. So when you think about this Hoffman method, it sounds like it's not just, understanding who we're producing the products for and what the benefits are, but it also bleeds into our messaging, from a marketing or a business development perspective. And then it bleeds into our whole sales execution side of the equation. And then lastly, the part we just talked about, it bleeds into our professional services, implementation, and then ongoing maintenance, like customer success, if you will. Did I get that right?
Yes. It's essentially, how do we ensure that the company is healthy, and how do we ensure that it continues to scale so that their margins go up and not, either stay, static or decline. So the Hoffman or I like to refer to it as a Hoff scale method. It's designed to say, look, I'm going to help figure out where the problems or challenges lie. I'm going to assess the organization, and I'll assess product market fit. I'll assess messaging. I'll assess the go-to-market strategy or strategies. I'll assess the execution from a sales perspective to find, cultivate, and win deals and forecasted timelines, and then the ongoing component for upsell opportunity and overall customer success. And then once you assess it, you're really strategizing with the leadership team to ensure that you can create a systematic approach for sustainability, or you're fixing those challenges and building out that systemized or codified approach for sustainability and then scalability. And then, you can stay on board to maintain, in a sense, the same way, a vendor would want to go back into an existing customer from a success perspective and maintain their growth. I'll do the same thing. I'll assess, strategize, uh, systemize the environment with processes that will ensure success and sustainability. But also, I'll go back in periodically with audits, and then remain, if companies want me to, I can remain as a board advisor ongoing. So essentially, the Hoff scale method is a 9-month program or a 1-year program, depending on what's being done. And then onward from there, it's, Jeff, if the company, leadership team and the investors want me to, I can remain as a board advisor to them ongoing, providing insight and, different thoughts and perspective on how to ensure these companies get to where they want to go.
All right, Jeff. So let me give you a scenario. So I talk to new sales leaders, CROs, right? They're brought in because the organization is not scaling, is not meeting demands.
Yep.
And they look at the organization and they can have problems across the board. And one of the things they might ask, and that's what I'm going to ask you, is this is great, but where do I start? Right? Do I start with sales execution because that's the money engine, or do I go back to product?
Yeah,
What do you recommend?
that's an excellent question. Well, I think first and foremost, having been a CRO, I think the way I personally think is that revenue management is not based on a one-trick pony. It's not just emanating out of sales or marketing or product. It really is a combination of aligning these departments along with services. So you start with letting someone like me kind of assess and strategize on where the issues are and why they really exist. Because again, a mistake that a lot of people can make from a linear perspective is to say, we're not making enough money. Oh, the problem must be sales.
Yep.
And then you go in, or maybe the company just simply goes and they hire a new leader to run sales. But the problem might not be completely that they don't have the right salespeople. It might be they might have the wrong structure. Maybe they're using salespeople who are not capable of generating new market share from an execution standpoint, or maybe the company needs another skill, and that will complement the existing seller to help make them better. So the problem might be redefining the go-to-market strategy, retooling the quantifiable potential and where does it come from. And you really want to make sure when you look at this issue that you look at it from all angles. And most important is, I like to make sure you prep salespeople to be efficient and successful. If they're unable to do their job and they have all the resources to make it happen and all the right coaching, then you have to make changes. But you want to look at it from all angles. And I just remember an example of this was when I got hired to turn around an underperforming large sales team, and I was hired to manage this sales team at one of the companies I worked for many years ago, SunGard, before they sold the company to FIS. I remember, the person I worked for said to me, "You might want to look at these people. I'm not sure they're really very good." And I remember saying, "Well, give me 90 days. Let me see what I can find out about why they're challenged." And in all three cases, they needed to just have a few things tweaked. They were selling to treasurers, but they weren't selling to CFOs. They weren't selling to complementary departments that had an impact on a deal, like risk officers. And so what I did is I expanded the audience, and I coached and mentored and taught people how to do this to increase the size of the deal and the deal certainty. And we did that, and we increased the revenue stream exponentially by just doing that. And some of these salespeople that the person I reported into at the time ultimately wanted me to get rid of these people. By me working with them and teaching them and coaching them and helping them learn how to expand the audience, what ended up happening was these two of the three people ended up being 1 and 2 respectively, not only on my team, but in the company globally. They went to that length. So they were good salespeople. They just needed a little assistance and a little support.
It's a great story. All right, Jeff, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. So, you've had a great career. What got you to this point of creating your Hoffman method or the Hoff method?
I think what got me here was, working for lots of companies as a sales guy for many years. As I said, I cold called my way into IBM. I was selling into the financial vertical, and then I went to Oracle, where I really learned how to sell. Tough environment, but I learned a lot there. Then I went to some innocuous companies that didn't have the resources. In all these environments, though, before I even got into sales management roles and executive level, C-level positions, I realized there's a lot of problems that exist, and a lot of people on the front lines responsible for making things happen are not getting the support that they truly need to be successful. And I'll be the first person to make changes if people are not properly, the right individuals to do the job. But look at whether or not they are the right person to be doing the day-to-day responsibilities. And a lot of this doesn't happen because I've just found that a lot of people over the years, they're hiring using the wrong criteria to hire people. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of insight on hiring the right people. And that's another piece that I focus on, making sure companies have the right people based on day-to-day responsibilities that they need to be able to focus on to be successful, as opposed to just, well, this person sold at a similar company and they've had success on paper and we checked the references and they did well. Well, maybe they did well, but with a completely different cultured environment where they had a lot of resources and support, but all of a sudden they're going to come to your environment where they're going to have to really do a lot more on their own. So why don't you get that criteria, put together accurately, so when you're interviewing, you can interview against the things that these people coming to your company are going to have to do day to day. And so just seeing a lot of the laziness in terms of not hiring the right people, the laziness to not understanding the remits and the right resources required and having the right processes in place, just a lack of efficiency in a lot of these companies. And in the end, I got just so fed up. I said, I think I can help fix this. And I want to try to help make people win in all companies. I just want everybody to win. And so that was the impetus for starting, my CRO advisory management consulting firm.
Excellent. Well, you've had a great journey there, Jeff. All right, last 2 questions. What's a piece of advice you would give our listeners, be it business or personal, that would help them be successful as you have been?
I would say be empathetic to other people. Don't ever put yourself up on a pedestal, even if you inadvertently do it. try to be aware, try to be as self-aware as you can, because it's a team sport. This is not like, hey, I'm a brain surgeon and I know my job, and I go into the surgery room and I help fix the problem on my own with a couple of people around me giving me the scalpels. This is unfortunately a complex team game, business to business software or business to business enterprise software. It's a team sport. When you recognize that, even if you're the leader of the show, be empathetic and be self-aware. That would be the advice I would provide on that one.
I love that, Jeff. That's really good, insightful. And we can use more empathy today than ever before, I sometimes feel like.
It's true. That's a big time truth.
All right, Jeff, if people want to get a hold of you and want to use your services, what's the best way for them to find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Hoffman, Chief Revenue Officer. I should pop up. There's probably other bald guys out there, but I'm sure hopefully I'm the only Jeff Hoffman who's bald, with glasses on the LinkedIn site with the title CRO. So that would be the best way to find me.
Bald is beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate the questions. It's been fun.
Awesome. All right, everyone. That does it for our episode today. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, I wish you nothing but the greatest success.